The Roots of Success podcast is for the landscape professional who's looking to up their game. We've got a brain trust of experts to help you nurture the roots of a successful business and grow to the next level. This is the Roots of Success.
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Roots of Success podcast, and I'm your host, Tommy Cole. We have an awesome guest today, which is our good friend and partner in crime for a lot of reasons, Michael Hupf from Denver, Colorado, and he's the CEO of Lifescape Denver, Colorado. Welcome, Michael. How are you?
Great, Tommy. Thank you for inviting me.
So you have been by far one of the smartest persons I do know. Let's talk about your background just slightly. You went to school at Creighton University, got an accounting degree, so you're the numbers guru, financial guru, and then also a business degree from Stanford. And you spent some time as a senior associate, but most importantly, you also had a wine business, which you probably learned a ton about that. And then you purchased Lifescape, and roughly 19, 20 years later, here we are, right? That summarizes your whole career?
Basically, except you missed the whole thing where I grew up on a farm in Nebraska. So
there you go.
Basically, if you want to know where it all started, it was basically growing up on a farm.
Yeah.
Helping dad with 4 brothers, was also into 4-H. So I was the 4-H king and did, a bunch of gardening and everything from there. So I remember I was talking to my mom and I said, I don't even know where this all started. And she goes, well, I can tell you. So just rely on your moms. She'll
for
remind
everything,
you.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Ask your mom and they know everything about you.
But yeah, it did start back in Nebraska. And then, like you said, I went to Creighton. I was actually a double major. It wasn't just accounting. It was biology as well. So I was pre-med. And so I was looking at what path do I go? Am I going to go medicine, go to medical school, or am I going to go into business? And I chose business. So I was with Deloitte for almost 4 years as a CPA, and then went to Stanford Business School. And after that, I worked for McKinsey, which is the world's best consulting company.
Yep.
And through that, I worked on a bunch of public studies, which were kind of nice to talk about. One being Warner Brothers, and I was working on their whole integration. One of the worst mergers in history between AOL and Warner Brothers. Yeah. But I was helping to clean that mess up. And that's when, after that, I had an opportunity and started a wine company from scratch. So it was a project we did at Stanford, and it was pretty cool. We did,
so how'd you get in the wine business? Like, what happened there? And then what was that experience about?
It started back at Stanford Business School. It's like we had a wine club, and we did our own private label for the class and then sold it as a fundraiser for the university at the business school. And so what did is that if we can do that for one university, why don't we take that nationwide? And so that's where it started. So we started doing wine for USC. We did wine for UCLA, University of Nebraska, Colorado, across the country, and then also started doing IPO wine. So we did Yahoo's IPO wine for celebrations. We did Webvan. So it was really a direct consumer and direct to a business model, and learned a lot about drinking wine, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But then also learned about the basics of business, from marketing to finance to fulfillment, cash flow management being probably the most important thing I learned coming from that. Yeah. And trust me, that came in very handy once I got out of that business and went back to McKinsey. I went to the East Coast, started a shared service center for Condé Nast. It was their newspaper group, and was there for 5 years. And quite frankly, was tired of flying across. I lived in LA at the time, and I worked in New York City. And so I flew every single week, every single Sunday night, and back on Thursday. And through that process, that's where I said, I'm going to do something next. And that's where the whole landscaping thing started.
So because you had a 4-H background, you said, man, I want to get my hands dirty all over again and get started in landscaping, right?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. I knew you were going to say that. Not necessarily the hopes. So tell me about the experience of getting involved with Lifescape. There's a lot of history there, right? Yep. Prior to you, and then you got involved and started kicking that off. Tell me about that experience.
So I bought 35% of Lifescape in 2006. But in preparation to that, you have to get ready for something like that. So I'm not coming in with, a ton of landscaping expertise.
Right.
It was once I was on the East Coast or working in New York and I was looking at alternative things, that's when I said, okay, what industry do I want to get involved with? Because I wanted to get back involved with a small company, basically back to where things were like with the wine company. And so I looked at industries, honed in on the landscape industry, and then started looking at markets, love DC, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, and Denver. Those were the 5 markets I looked at, and then honed in on the opportunities because the other markets were much further along in the green industry than what Denver was. And so there was quite frankly, a bigger opportunity in the Colorado market. So that's where I did, and then went through the research and looked at the top 5 companies and found out some good synergies and somebody that was looking at going to the next level. And so Randy and I had a good relationship and ended up joining him knowing it was going to be a 5-year transition from 2006 to 2011. What we didn't plan on is this little recession in 2000.
Yeah, in 08, 09, right? Oops.
God, it started, and looking backwards on the books, it all started in 2007. No one knew it that at the time it had. But I started seeing then interest expense starting to creep into our P&L. And so I could see exactly when, our problems started happening here in the market.
Yeah. So what happened after that? So you what year or 2 into it, you started seeing this transition, this whole economic sort of bust, this 07, 08, 09 transition. I was in that bubble too, right here in Dallas, Texas. And it was tough. It was scary. It was all hands on deck to figure things out. So what was that transition like, going through it and coming out on top? And then how's it going those sort of past recession times during the Lifescape?
It was not easy at all. I mean, when I bought Lifescape, we were right at 3.2 million. And then we quickly grew it in 2007 up to 5.5 million. But by 2008, the whole country was in a firm recession. So it went right back down to 3.2 million. And then no one could see the other side. Yeah. Because it didn't get over until end of 2010 is when it really started getting over. And it took capital. So it took the cash management, going back to the wine company. It took the cash management expertise. We were managing literally every $100. And so it was almost like I was doing more cash management than I was any selling, which was unfortunate, but it's a necessary way to keep a business together. And I had to raise over $2 million in friends and family capital raise to keep the company alive. Because I never wanted the thing where you check the box that says, declare
sign me up for that.
Yeah. And I said, nope. And so that's it. It literally was raising money, working with your vendors, getting together a plan. Because I knew we were going to get out the other side. We just didn't know when.
Yeah, at some point.
And so we did. And so that was the end of 2010. So 2011, we started making money again. And it took a while to repay that debt. And so what I did strategically in 2014, because it was a painful experience. Yes, you're going through the recession. That itself was from 2007 through basically 2010. But then we were in a dead zone period from 2011 to 2014. And I just knew, I could do what I wanted to do. It's like, did I want to go back to, corporate America? What did I want to do? And I made the decision, nope, I'm going to invest more in the business. And what we did is that we grew. Our specific strategy was just growth. And so we had for the next, it was 6 years, there was just nothing but growth. That lasted through 2019. And then, of course, we developed our 10-year plan. I'm not kidding you. The timing was we got signed up with EOS, that entrepreneurial operating system from the traction bug. We did that in December of 2019. And that little thing of COVID then happened early in the year.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that our 10-year plan was then to get to $50 million in revenue. And we are 3 years ahead of schedule.
There you go. So let's talk about real quick, tons of growth. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, you've seen anything from starting at 3.2 million basically when you were around, and you'll get into what you are now. Talk about the challenges of growing. You grew so fast, but talk about the challenges, but also talk about the wins. Why did you have so many wins to grow that, but also talk about the challenges during that period?
Since we went in with a growth mindset, that our pure strategy was growth, just because we were not a company of scale. What you'll find is there are these different levels in the landscape industry, and with inflation, the numbers have gone up a little bit, but it's like you're starting off, and then, one person can probably do $500,000 in revenue. Then the next level, and you're reinventing the company again, is $1 million. And then it doubles to 2 million. And now that number is probably about 6 million. And you're going to find that people are going to stagnate right in that $6 million level for a long time, unless you reinvent yourself again. And then once you get to that 6 million, now that number is probably in that 10 to 12 million range. Mm-hmm. And then the next number is right about 20 million. And once we hit 20 million, it was like a completely different company. So we went from that, we hit 3 different levels within, it was 5 years, which is absolutely crazy.
Right.
Every single time we hit the next level, it was easier to run the business. Yeah. And it was that $20 million level that really paid off. And that's when people started paying attention to us nationwide, too.
Right. So tell me about real quick. So from that sort of 5 to 20 million, what were some key metrics or key things that really were successful for your team?
First of all, it's like we were 100% design build at the time. Okay. So since we were 100% design build, what we were doing is that we've always been a very competitive company. Hey, you know us, we're a competitive company. We're fun, we joke, but we want to win. And so what we would do is that we're tracking basically metrics to know exactly how we're doing on the selling front. Yep. And so we look at what have we invoiced, then what have we sold in our backlog, and then we're looking at the weighted average pipeline, and we're looking at that every single week. It's not a monthly exercise, and I work with our salespeople and designers that they need to look at it every day. It's not there for a scorecard. It's how do you manage your professional life to make sure that you keep winning. And so it was literally focusing on that just intently.
Yeah, I love that. At the end of the day, you want winners in your organization, right? It's no different than a sport, right? Like you want to win, but you're going to have losses along the way, right? You could take a loss, but what are you going to do when you do lose in that match or that game, right? No different between the week or the month, right? You could have some tough years or tough months, but how's your team going to react? And what are you going to do about it, right? We could sit here and go, wah, 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 all day long about not winning, but I love the mentality. You guys love to have fun and you love to win. And those two are just an amazing combination at the end of the day. And you study, what I like about it is you study the backlog, you study sales, you study your production, and you're constantly looking at that every single day, and week, month, and year. And you keep progressing along the way, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it's like we went through, even this year now, we went to push ourselves even further to be a professional sales organization. We went through the Sandler training. Mm-hmm. There's numerous different training out there for sales, but it's like Sandler is recognized as one of the best. And one of the key lessons I learned from Sandler is that don't be afraid to get a no up front.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that so true? Don't be scared to no.
Yeah. And so that's, that was just really, and we have a sales meeting every single Tuesday, and we have for the past 15 years, is that we talk about this stuff every single week. Now, in the middle of that growth from 5 million to 20 million, We then implemented what was really important. We started the maintenance division.
Okay.
Since we were 100% design build, is that when you're looking, you are only as good as what your revenue is for that year. When you wake up on January the 1st,
Start all over.
what am I saying? Waking up. When you go to bed on January the 1st,
Totally.
at 12:01, your
Yeah,
revenue.
I got to start over.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so and I will give kudos to Jim, Jason, you, and Chris from McFarland in really helping us launch the maintenance division. It was a combination of you and Bill Arman that really got this off the ground. So maintenance now, if you look at our product mix, last year we ended the year as a $36 million company, and 39% of our revenues were from recurring revenue.
0 to 39% of your business is maintenance, and over those years, and you saw the value of maintenance, right? You put in some key pieces in your organization between personnel, teams, field teams. You put in an account management system, right? That says we're going to be at your property every single week. We're going to take care of the high touches, the high properties, all the details that go in, because what happens is just reoccurring revenue every single month. And not only that, you get enhancements. So almost half your business is reoccurring.
Yeah, my goal. So this year we'll be in the low 40%. So we'll go over 40, and within 5 years, I would love it to be 60% maintenance and 40% construction.
Love it. That's great.
It makes the New Year's Eve a lot better.
Yeah. You make it stay out past 12:01, right?
Exactly.
Stuff. Michael, talk about the people in your organization. You got some good ones. Explain what it means. We talk about people all the time, that they're probably your best and most important asset in your business. It's not the skid steer or the lawnmower, it's the people in order to do those activities. Talk about what that means to you in Lifescape.
To me, I mean, you need to, first of all, set out what your goals are. Like, what do you want to be? It's best not to create a company around people.
Yeah.
You basically have the structure, you know what your strategy is going to be, and then you bring in great people. Yep. And you don't know what role they're necessarily going to fill. And right now is Leanne, you know her quite well. She was NALP's Woman of the Year.
Yep.
2023. And she started as a designer with us.
She did.
She was the first person that I hired
in
July of 2006. And she's now our chief operating officer. Yeah. So she now is running both the design build side, and also the maintenance side. So she runs everything in the field, and the great, partner with us. So then you take from the rest of the operations folks. It's like that have been underneath of her. We've had designers that have been with us for going on 18 years.
Yeah.
So the key thing is that finding good people, and they need to be smart.
Yeah.
Want to win, want to have a good time. That's the recipe for success.
That's great. That's great. I love the part where you say build a structure, right? I got to build a structure. I got to build a system that produces great landscape and maintains the landscape. And oh, by the way, I'm going to find some really good people, and you're probably going to hire some bad people, right? That's no big deal. That's part of life. We've all hired the bad ones. We've all had to move on from the bad ones, but the good ones stick around for a very long time, and they adapt to your system, and they can move within an organization, as Leanne has done successfully. Yeah. It's not been the perfect road, but it has been one heck of a good ride so far.
And you then look at on our production side, you have folks in our organization that, like Cody, he started out as an assistant foreman. So he's number 2 on a crew. He then became foreman, becomes senior foreman, and now he's a production manager.
Wow.
And I know he's already looking at, he said, okay, how do I become a branch manager? So that's how you want to be able to grow your talent in the company.
Yeah, nothing's better than promoting within. That's an absolute game changer for your organization. I love it. Talk about maintaining landscapes in the high-end industry, right? Sometimes people think it's a little scary. dealing with high-end clientele and budgets and that sort of thing. But what's attractive about that spot? I feel like during the recession, you're probably in a decent spot because the wealthy people love to spend money, right? Rightfully so during a recession. But like, tell me how you guys have been successful maintaining high-end residential clients.
I think it starts with not calling them high end.
Love it.
Is that I really believe that it's high touch. So if you think of high end, I mean, that is, yes, they do. It's the luxury market. They have money. That's what defines that market. But by focusing on high touch, instead of the high end, that service is what people are looking for.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is the key, is you focus on service, keep your prices reasonable, you'll win day in and day out.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you sell a service to the client. That's it. Right. And can you perform that service on time and on budget? And then they have a smile at the end of the job. That's it. At the end of the day, right? It's not complicated. We just got to produce. When we say we're going to do something, we got to show up and do it.
Yeah. Our number one complaint is communication. That
music to my ear. I love it.
It is the entire.
It's the number one reason that you're going to get fired is because of lack of communication, right?
Yeah, that is exactly right. And so when I think about service, is that, hey, we are far from perfect. Everybody, it's like, what you've got to do is you've got to learn from things. Well, it's like this morning, we had 2 complaints from clients about driving. And so my thing is that we need to take those complaints just as seriously in follow-up than if we got a lead for a $15, $20 million home.
100%. Right.
And so if you focus on that service aspect of things, that's what will, do we have a problem with our drivers? Evidently, because we had 2 complaints. But those are the things that we really want to focus on for, us in the long term. And we've been, this is now, we are in our 49th year in business. The oldest, high touch landscape company in the Colorado market. And so, yes, we'll be going in our 50th year now.
50 years next year.
Yep.
I'm there in Denver to celebrate. I will be there to celebrate 50. So you just tell me the date and we'll be there.
Perfect.
So let's talk about something unique that has happened to Lifescape earlier this year. You tell us, Michael, what happened earlier this year to Lifescape?
Now you're making me nervous. It was a big deal. We decided to partner with Mariani, and I am on day 115 of this. And I will tell you, 115 of 115 days, it was absolutely the right decision.
Okay.
It's the right decision for, number one, our team. It gives them opportunity of doing, it's like even taking Lifescape to the next level, taking their careers to the next level. And it's the right thing for our clients. And it was a great strategy for me, as owner of Lifescape, to take chips off the table as well. So, so it was. Frank is a dear friend of mine, Frank Mariani.
Yep.
I met him 20 years ago when I was looking at the market and when I was back in New York City. Met a lot of great folks in the industry, and he was one of them. And it was, we as Mariani are creating the best outdoor living company in the world.
Yep.
That's our vision statement, and it is what we're doing. Yep. Yes, we're growing rapidly. And for us, it's been a great experience. And I had our town halls. We always have 2 town halls a year, all of our folks, and everybody has said that they have 0 complaints. So
that's great.
Yeah,
that's
so it's great.
That's awesome. Well, first off, congratulations. That's been a huge deal, and I'm excited and happy for the entire Lifescape team. I've definitely spent some time up there in Denver with you and your team, and we've definitely spent some time together outside of Denver, Colorado over the years.
Yep.
And when I heard the news, I was extremely ecstatic for you guys. There's one thing that's probably on everyone's mind that's listening to this right now, and they go, "Oh my gosh, they partnered up Mariani. Like, I'm a $5 million company now. Listen to this. How do I get my business to where it needs to be at that level to be partners with somebody. Now, whether it be now or I need to get to that spot, but talk about some things that you had to get the business to be get ready to that.
I would start with a great TV show is on CNBC is The Prophet. I don't know if you've ever seen that before.
Love it.
Yes. And
Love
it's
it.
like, according to him, it is so simple. Break your business down. It's the 3 P's. It's number 1, it's people.
Yep.
2 is process, and 3 is the product.
Yep.
If you do those 3, that results in profit. And
Yep.
he did add a 4th P, and that 4th P was passion. And I really believe in that simplicity. And I did not plan on this happening. It just came to be. I knew it was going to eventually, but the timing of it was, so I did not get the company ready to do this. It just happened. But it was because over the years, we had focused on those P's.
Yep.
It really was those 5 P's, with the 5th one being profit, because you have to have the right people. You have to have those processes in place. You need to make sure that you have you're creating the right product. And then if your team has that passion in the product, those are the people and companies that companies are attracted in partnering with. And I look at it as a partnership. It is not just an acquisition. It's a partnership, and it's great. But yeah, those are the things I would focus on. The basics of business. Don't try to get cute and doctor your books, because trust me, anybody would find that out. So it's just getting the basics done.
Totally. You hit a sensitive subject, I think, for a lot of business owners. And that is, we talk about that a lot, but that's that word called profit. And let's just be real honest with everyone. If you're not making money, that's an issue.
Yes.
With all the government money that's over the past years, or you're not watching your hours, or you're not making money, or you don't know what your billable rate is, or you don't know, those types of things are hurting. And I feel like our industry suffers because we almost work for free for sometimes, right? And you've heard that across the entire country. Well, the profit's just not there. The profit's not there. Well, at the end of the day, we are for-profit businesses, right? We work way too hard in this industry. Landscape business owners are some of the best people out there in any industry, and I'm willing to bet on that. But you got to make money in this business. And you guys have done it, for the most part, pretty well. Like, don't be ashamed of making money at the end of the day. Can you explain some of that?
Well, I mean, it needs to start with that is that a healthy business is a profitable business. If you don't make money, you won't have the resources to take care of the 2 most important things, which are your team and your clients.
Yeah.
Because you will cut corners on both. So you need to be profitable. Now, that profit comes in different stages. When we were going through, I mean, you have the externality of a recession. That's different.
Yeah.
But then when we were in that period of growth from 2015 to 2020, during that period of growth, I mean, you're a 5-year period, and we were only making between 1 and maybe 2.5% net income, which is not enough to sustain where you need to be going. But whenever you're growing that fast, things happen. And so we had a strategy of growth. It wasn't the strategy of getting the most on the bottom line. Now, once we got to scale, once we got the processes that really wanted people, and then we shifted. Our strategy is no longer growth. Our strategy was excellence. Mm-hmm. Once we did that, our profits tripled. And so then, the key is that getting your business to no less than 8. But I would prefer that people are striving for a 10% net income year in and year out. That way, some years, if you don't do as good as you should have, you'll be at 8. And then your good years, you're at 12, 13.
Yeah.
So the key thing is focusing on that double-digit net income. And you can do it, and it is not rocket science.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Talk about sales. You're really involved in that side of the business of Lifescape and sales. So I feel like this is the year, we're in 2024, where you're probably experiencing this a little bit in your business, but sales are not as easy as it has been right? When COVID was rampant and people were sitting at home going, do whatever it takes, I'll spend whatever, right? And so this year's been a little bit tricky, and I think everyone can see it. But what is Lifescape, or what are you guys learning in your markets of what you should be doing and what's successful right now? It's not easy, but like, how are you overcoming that right now?
You hit the nail on the head. I'm part of our peer group. It's like we had 12 companies there, Tommy,
Yep.
and 11 out of the 12 all had a softness in the design build backlog and pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So it's across the country. And so you have to be better at sales. And so what does that mean? Ours is that we actually rethought the whole lead intake process. How do we provide a better experience from that first moment that we have contact with a potential client? So we rethought that. How can we give them more attention? Then we went through the next one. How can we shorten the production process from creating a design and getting that construction contract so that people are out there? Because now that everybody's backlogs are a little leaner, people can get a project done faster.
Yep.
And then it's like the last part is that working through the production side and making sure that you are then transitioning that over to the property care team so we get that full service of design, build, and then we maintain it.
I love it. So it's all about the client experience, right?
Yeah, it is.
And can we take the experience and have the most greatest experience for that client? One, two, can we shorten it, right?
Yep.
Can we get faster? Can we get a quote out quicker? Well, we got to have templates. Well, in the intake form, we got to ask more questions. And out of those questions and all that data, how do I get it to the design sales team so they got more information before they go to the on-site visit? Production-wise, how do we do pre-planning and get ready for these jobs and order materials in advance? Construction schedules, invoicing, all that, and you kind of condense them a little bit more and more, right? At the end of the day, you got set yourself apart from your competition. And so it's show up on time, look professional, speed kills, right? Go fast, say what you're going to do, communicate along the way, and those few things will set you apart.
But if you do it the exact same way that you did it last year, you will fail.
Totally.
That I can pretty much guarantee you.
Yes.
It's a different market out there. And I think it'll be this way for the next 18 months.
Good stuff, Michael. So future plans for Lifescape.
Yeah.
You've accomplished a lot in 20 years and, going from 3 to 30 partnership with Mariani, but what's the future hold with you and the team?
Is that we're just going to continue doing what we have been doing, which we are known as not just local leaders, we're national leaders.
Yeah.
And now that we've joined forces with Mariani, that's what we'll just do. So we're going to keep pushing the industry forward and quite frankly, faster than we could have by ourselves. Yeah. And so I'm looking forward to the future. And, I look at the background that you have there is the green industry is not going away. And so it's like you could have as much AI and everything you want, but the green industry isn't going away with the way that we are improving both the lives of our clients, both residential and commercial. So because that we really want to be leaders in the forefront and give our team the best opportunities of leadership throughout the world.
Yeah. Love it. That's great. So as we wrap up, Michael, any last minute advice for anyone that's listening out there that you've experienced in your 20 years of landscaping, many years of 4-H farm, many years in the wine industry? What's one takeaway you can leave with our audience?
The most important thing is be a good person.
Yes.
And, it's like I've had garden managers say, what's the most important quality you're looking at, when you're hiring a garden manager? And so I can answer that question. I don't care if I'm hiring a garden manager, I'm hiring a controller, I'm hiring, a designer. It really is be a good person, be smart, make sure that you're prepared for everything that you're doing. And, it's like at the end of the day, you'll get exactly what you put into it.
Goodness gets you far in life, right?
It does.
At the end of the day, just be a good person, take the high road and go with it. So, Michael, I've got a few takeaways. We call these the Tommy takeaways. This is good information. But I love the fact that watching sales backlog constantly, what's coming down the pipe, how much are we bidding, what does the production look like, constantly reviewing that every single day, week, and month, managing growth. You got to set goals. Where are you going? Where's this ship that you're steering headed towards? Is it just like in the middle of the ocean, kind of going in circles because there's no goals and there's no people know? I love the fact that you have a winning culture, because you need to know if you're winning or not. It's no different in football and basketball and sports in life. Like, are we winning or not? Or are we just coming in every day, clocking in, do our job, we clock out for no rhyme or reason, and we go home and there's no purpose in our industry or in life? Find good people, put them in the structure that's built, the Lifescape structure, the process, right? I love the word high touch, because your industry considers a lot of touches, therefore relies a lot on communication. You said the number one reason why you get fired is what? Communication.
Yep.
Love it. It's huge partnership with Mariani has probably taught you a ton, but at the end of the day, to get your business ready to have a great partnership, it's the people, it's the process, it's the profit, it's the product, and it's the passion. I love those.
Yep.
Michael, it's been a pleasure. You're such a good friend of ours. We've had tons of visits to Denver and tons of memories and throughout a ton of cities in the United States. It's always been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for coming on here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tommy, so much for everything that you and McFarland do for us as well.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Ready to take the next step? Download our free profitability scorecard to quickly create your own baseline financial assessment and uncover the fastest ways to improve your business. Just go to mcfarlandstanford.com/scorecard to get yours today. To learn more about McFarland Stanford, our best-in-class peer groups, and other services, go to our website at mcfarlandstanford.com, and don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time on The Roots of Success.